Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial. We are going to be creating a painting similar to the one I'm going to be hovering across the screen here somewhere on one of these sides. And we are going to be creating this painting using a 6x6 canvas that I received from Arteza Art Supplies. They sent me, they were gracious enough to send me, I'm going to refer back to my screen here. They sent me a pack of 12 of these, and currently they retail on their site for $20.98, although they have always coupons going and coming and going, and so you can generally find it for even less than that. But we're going to be using this 6x6 canvas, and we're also going to be using some Arteza acrylic paints. They came in this 60 color box here, and on the top of the box it tells you every single color that is in here, which I find myself referring back to all the time. Because if I want to know what color I need, instead of just running through the box, I can easily look here and then find what I'm looking for. On the top here, also for reference, next to the colors, they have light fast, and they also tell you whether or not the colors are transparent, opaque, or semi-transparent, which is really, really helpful. They have golds in here, silvers, they have coppers, as well as just a broad range of other everyday useful colors. And if you can't find the color that you're looking for, you are not looking hard enough. There's just every color imaginable in here. So what I do, since I'm a messy person, I take all of the paints out and I just sort of put them haphazardly in the box. And this isn't even all of them. I have the colors that I plan on using set to my side. Excuse me. So these are how they come. They're in 0.74 fluid ounces. And so this is a nice set for you to just kind of see how you like these. And so far, I really like these acrylic paints. You can't beat them for the money, really. Referring back to their website here, it's $29.99 for these 60 colors. And I mean, you just can't. You can't get better than that, and it's free shipping on all items, and it's got a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so I mean, you really just can't go wrong. So we're going to move on to our tutorial, and I'm just going to show you how I go about using these items from Arteza. And what we're going to be needing today is obviously a 6x6 inch canvas. We're going to be using this acid-free Yes paste. I love this stuff. If you are a mixed media artist and you don't know about this, get on board with Yes paste because it is amazing. I use this all the time. It dries opaque, which means that you can use other mediums over top of it and layer on top of it. It doesn't have a gloss finish, so once it's on, it's like you're done with it. That's one of the things that I really love about this as opposed to other gel mediums. So it's toted as an all-purpose stick flat glue, and it is permanent. It's really, really nice. So we're going to be using that. We're also going to be using, I found these napkins at a local store, and I thought, well, these are real pretty. I'm going to use these for something. And when I came across the fact that I wanted to do a landscape painting, I decided to do it in mixed media, and these came in handy. So we're going to be using that as well. And of course, we're going to be using a few of the Arteza colors, and we're going to be using, I have a 6 flat acrylic brush. I've got a 6 round, and then I just have this junky brush. It's a flat brush. I don't even know what size this is because it looks like a 6, but you can tell how long I've had it because you can see the wood now. There is just no paint on top. It's been a long, long time that I've had that. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to get started on our canvas. So I always start with the sky just because I love the sky the most, and I'm going to be using ultramarine blue for the top. We're going to go from dark to light here. So I just very kind of haphazardly work. I want you, as you're working on this, to not think too much about it. Just put the color on and just have faith that it is all going to work out, okay? So we're going to put the darkest colors here in the corner because this is sort of like the edge of the sky here, and you can see that we have a dark color here, which is good, and this is going to be followed with, let's see, if you hear me digging around in here, it's because I am searching for another color that is going to be a blue shade, and this is one of those things about not being very with it when it comes to painting. I just kind of grab things. Prussian blue is what I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to put that right on my brush, and we're going to darken this even further. I didn't like how dark or how light that was, so I thought, well, let's just make it a little bit darker. So we're going to do that around the edges here, just the top part, the corner, and around the edges, sort of like this, sort of like an arc shape. We're going to immediately follow that with a pale, it says mauve pale. We're going to put that on right here in the center, just a little bit of that, and I'm not even going to clean my brush. I'm just going to lay that on. I like working small because the acrylic paints are known to dry out pretty quickly, and when you work with a small canvas, you generally don't have to worry about that happening because you can layer the entire canvas pretty quickly without any issue. And I really like that about it. So we are going to follow this up with, let's see, we're going to use violet. I am going to be putting some violet on. I am going to wash my brush at this point. This violet should look really pretty. I'm going to rinse my brush out, and I am going to just kind of wipe it off. I don't want to get it completely dry because already my paints are probably starting to dry. So I just want sort of a purplish blue sky here. And then I'm going to immediately follow that with magenta light. Okay, let's get that goober out of there. And I'm just going to put that on just like that, just a couple of globs there. And I probably should rinse my brush. I want to keep this color pretty pure. I want it to blend in, but not so much that I'm going to lose that beautiful, beautiful color itself. I don't want to muddy it up. So I'm sort of going across the sky here with it, but I want to keep that color too. So now once I have that sort of blended in, I'm going to rinse my brush because now I really kind of want to blend that together. I don't want that hard line. So I'm going to use a very light hand and start blending that in. Now mind you, my painting here is not going to look identical to the painting that you saw because I tend to work pretty organically and I grab different types of paint every time that I paint. So, and I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to see that, you know, everything does eventually work out in the end. Look at this, neon pink. We're going to use a little bit of that. I didn't do that in the last one, but I kind of want to see what that looks like. So we're going to put that on. Look at that. Now that is going to be a really cool sky. Look at that. Oh yeah. I really like that. I did not use that last time. That sky looks gorgeous already. That looks amazing. Okay. That looks great. Now I'm just going to blend. If the paintbrush is too wet, the colors are just kind of going to move around and not really blend well. So that's when I'm going to come in with my junk brush, and it's dry, and with a very, very light hand, I'm just sort of blending all this together just by going back and forth. Just like that. Very, very lightly. So we can get a good blend out of that. Okay, now we're going to move on to the bottom part of our project. So I'm going to rinse my paintbrush here, and we're going to go in with some greens. So we're going to start out, I think, with a pale green here. I'm going to put some here, and I'm going to put some here. You notice I'm not adding a lot. Not a lot. I'm going to use my junk paintbrush for this. We're just going to start working on this very pretty meadow. I kind of want it to look like a rolling hills. So I am just going in a downward motion here on either side so it meets up in the center, because I want it to look like that there are a couple of hills that are sort of blending in with each other. That looks pretty cool right there, but it's a bit neon for me. So I am going to darken that down just a little bit with some olive green. Did I mention that was pale green? I think I did. Did I? If I didn't, that was pale green that I was using. Okay. But I am going to just darken that down a little bit, which is good anyway, because now it kind of looks like we've got a big hill here, and that this back area is just going to be fading into the background a little bit. Okay, we're going to go even just a little bit deeper here with chromium oxide green. Put a little bit of that on my brush. And eventually we're going to get these colors to blend together. And you just do this. You just kind of go from bottom to top. I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow green because I want that to be less neon up here. That was a really neon color. I love it against that hot pink, but I mean, and you can do that. If you like that color, keep it. I kind of want it a little bit more subdued because I want it to be a little bit more realistic looking. But if you like those two colors together, then you, by all means, you keep them, because I'm sure that this is going to look fantastic however you do it. You really can't go wrong with these colors, to be honest about it. I always tend to pick colors opposite each other on the color wheel, and then I just sort of play around with them. Now this part down here, we're not going to worry too much about here at the bottom, because that's going to be covered. We just want to get it layered on. So I'm worrying more about what's going on up here. So we want to continue to try and make these colors look more realistic. We want the colors to blend in better. That's what I meant to say. So I rinsed my brush out, and now I am just trying to blend this in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to use this yellow green for back here as well, just to get that pale green just down a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. I like that much, much better. A little bit more. So you've probably already seen by now that this is a tutorial, but it's sort of a impromptu tutorial, which is kind of how I work. Anyone who has watched me work kind of knows this about me, that I generally don't have much of a plan when I do these types of things. Some people get very turned off by that. They want to know exactly what's happening at all times, and I apologize if you landed on this video for the first time and you're just now realizing that I am not like that, and you're like, what is this chick doing? But this is kind of how I do things. So, all right, that looks pretty good to me as far as a rolling hill type of a look. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of a deep yellow in the center just for highlighting. So we're just going to use a small one round brush. This is one of Arteza's small brushes that they have on their website. I really like these brushes for detail work. We're just going to add this in here in the center. And it doesn't matter if you see the paint lines. I like the texture on paintings, as you're going to find out here in just a minute when we start using these napkins. Okay. That just kind of makes it look like there's a reflection coming off of that sun, which we are going to marry these colors together here in short order. I think I'm going to put some of this up here too, just because I think it might look better. If it doesn't look better, guess what? It's just paint. We will paint over it. But that's kind of how we learn. And we just can't be too serious about these things. We just have to have fun with it. I have an artist friend. I followed her work for years. Her name is Nicole Wickman, and she is a master of just letting go and just create. She creates these beautiful flowers, and she's sort of my hero when it comes to, she just goes in there, she doesn't have a plan, she just starts working away, and her work always ends up just beautifully. And so just watching her work always inspires me to not take things too seriously. So, okay, now from here, you'll notice I don't put caps back on right away either because I'm lazy. We're going to put like a tree line here in the background. We're going to start out with raw umber and do that. This is where my 6-inch round is going to come in. I am going to put just a little water on that, and then I am just going to start tapping in circles. Okay, I'm going to start big, and then I'm just going to tap in another circle that's a little bit smaller. You'll notice that I'm overlapping a little bit. We're going to go a little bit smaller with this one, and we're just going to keep getting smaller and smaller because it's going to be fading off into the distance. Smaller and smaller until it just fades off into the distance. There we go. Now, obviously, I got a little bit of cleaning up to do here. So, before I go any further, I'm coming back in with this neon pink. And I am just going to bring that color right on in here, up against that green, and then just blend that up. That really kind of makes it, that extra pop of color right there, really just kind of makes it look like either the sun is about to come up or it's about to go down. I'm not sure which. One of those. Okay. Now, this is obviously too dark. Those colors are too dark, and they're not very dimensional here either, are they? So we are going to come back into these trees, and we are going to use, let's see, how about, let's see here. I'm going to come in with Mars Black, and I am just going to use just a little bit sort of on the underside here, because that's where the shadow of these trees are going to be. And I'm doing it on the lower right hand corner of where each of these trees are going to be. So it's almost like we're doing a reverse C shape just on the underside here. And I'm just tapping this color in. That's all I'm doing, tapping that color in. And now I'm going to come back with a deep yellow. And we're going to put some highlights in. And we're going to put those in on the upper left. And again, I am just tapping this in with the tip of my brush. And if it's too dark, you just come back in, and then if it's too light, then you just blend it back out. So I'm going to start in heavy here. And then I'm just going to come back in and blend it out. And if it's too much, which that's like too much yellow, clean off the brush, pull some of that off with a clean brush, and blend that in. Okay. All right. I'm checking to see if that is dry so that we can start with our next step without me having to turn off the camera. It's still a little tacky. So I'm going to stop the camera for right now, just until this dries, and then we're going to come back in and we're going to do our next step. So you will see me in just a moment. Okay, we are back, and this is dry to the touch. So we're going to set this aside for just a second, and we are going to bring out our tissue paper, well, our napkins here, technically, napkins. Napkins come in all different styles. They are fantastic. I am always on the lookout for napkins for my mixed media projects. They are just a great addition to help bring paintings to life. I love them so much. And if you haven't used napkins or you don't know how to use napkins, this may be the one takeaway from this video that you just really latch on to. So just have one napkin here that I've completely unfolded, and our first order of business is to bring it down to where it's just one ply. And I swear sometimes this is the hardest part of the whole thing because it doesn't want to come apart. So let's see how quickly I can actually get this done. So I tend to just kind of rip it at the edge, and then I pull it off. Okay, this, don't need that. You can use that to wipe your paintbrush on if you'd like. And you'd think, oh, well, that's good enough. No, you have another layer on here. Some of them are not 3-ply. Most decent napkins are, though. And I paid, I think, for 40 napkins, I think I paid like $2.29 for it. So they're not expensive. You can use them over and over and over again. So, come on there. There we go. There's our second ply. You'll know when you get down to it. You'll know because the design that you want that's on the napkin almost looks transparent, see? So we want to pull that off. And that's what we want. We want this right here. So we turn this over. You see that the design sort of has repeated itself, but that's no biggie because we are not going to need all of that. We're going to bring our painting back in. And from here, it's just, you kind of have to get a feel for what you want. Move this out of the way here. So I'm going to tear this in half. And you notice I'm not being too careful with this. It's ripping every which way. It doesn't matter. Just tear that sucker in half. Okay, I think I'm going to keep that half just because it's smaller. So now you basically just have to kind of decide where you want your flower field to be. I want a pretty big flower field here because I started my hill up really high. If you want just a small flower field at the bottom, then you're going to want to start this hill probably down a lot further. But I want mine up pretty high. So now it's going to be just a matter of trying to, we're going to take a little bit more time with this. And I like these jagged edges here that you see because it just it'll make the whole thing look more realistic. So I'm just going to do my best to try and follow that line down. It does not have to be perfect by any means. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, I went down a little bit too far there, so I'm gonna come back up here a little bit and I'm gonna try and save that poppy there. And just keep on going all the way. Okay, I think that looks pretty darn good. So we have an edge here that we're not going to need unless you want to wrap this around the edges and paint your edges. I usually do that, so I'm probably going to be doing that here as well. So I'm just gonna cut this excess off at the bottom. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. You can tell it's ripped. It doesn't, it's not perfect, but I promise you it is going to look perfect when all is said and done here. So now that we have this done, we are going to bring out our Yes paste. And as you can see, I have a big hole in the center here because how I tend to work with my Yes paste is that I fill it with water just from my paintbrush, and don't put like a ton in there, but it sort of just goes down towards the bottom, and I just keep adding water until there's a puddle of liquid at the bottom that turns into like a milky white. And once it hits that color, that is the perfect texture for me. So perfect texture, perfect color, just perfect in general. So that's about right. And you want it to be the consistency of milk, a thin milk, okay? You'll know you're there. See how that looks there? That's what we want. So I just dip my paintbrush in the bottom and then I tap off the excess along the side. And I line this up right where I want it. And let me bring it down just a little bit there. Just a little bit. And then I just lay that color on, or lay that glue on. And it lays beautifully, you guys. I mean, I love the way this glue goes on. It just blends it in seamlessly to the canvas. Now you are going to notice, for those of you who are perfectionists, you're going to notice that, at least the way I'm doing it, there's wrinkles in here. I personally like that look. I like the look of wrinkles because these are flowers, and they are poppies in particular, among other wildflowers. And poppies have this look about them where they resemble tissue paper. And so to me, that texture just adds to the overall painting. But if you really don't want any texture whatsoever, then you're just going to have to be very, very careful about smoothing it out. And I'm just going to extend this down on the bottom. It really does lay down here really, really nicely. I didn't cut that enough on the bottom, obviously. I'm just going to work that around the back because, again, I'm lazy. And I'm going to use my finger here to just sort of push that down in. Now I have a frame that I'm going to be using this for, so I am not real concerned about the way this looks, as you can tell. But if you are planning on painting this and you're going to be doing the sides all pretty so that you don't need a frame, then you're going to want to be a little bit better at that than I am. Now if you look, you see here that it's already very bright and vivid because we don't have any paint down there. So the white of the canvas has really brought out these colors. You could do it that way if you wanted to. You notice here it looks very dull. It looks just doesn't look that great. But if you want to make this more of a fine art piece and less of a decoupage, I guess, piece, then you're going to want to lay color underneath it because you want this painting to really be yours. You don't want to have to rely on a napkin, you know, to create flowers for you. You want to be able to say, you know, this painting was mine, I painted it, and yes, I used some other elements, but my creativity took precedence over that. So you can create a wildflower field without having to rely completely on something else to do it for you, I promise. So we're gonna let this dry. Actually, why don't we just keep the camera rolling and work on this sky a little bit more? Let's do that instead, because the sky I think could look a little bit better. And it's just very flat. It looks really flat to me. So what I'm gonna do, and I have no idea what colors to use here. Let's use, one of the things that I'm not crazy about regarding these paints, I do really like these paints, but there's a band that tells you exactly what the color looks like, and a lot of these colors don't look anything like the band. And I'll give you an example. This is rose right here, and you see what this band looks like. It almost looks like almost like a mauve color. But when you open it up, that's a lot brighter than that, considerably brighter. So if you're looking for this color, unless you had opened it prior, you wouldn't even know this color existed. So, you know, I wish the colors matched a little bit better. That would be nice. But we're going to use this, and I'm just taking my brush and I'm just wiggling it back and forth using this rose here. And I'm going to bring this color up just so that it gives this sky a little bit more definition. Just think that the sky looks pretty flat. So layering color helps a lot with that. I mean, you look at the sky, it's not just one color, it's a lot of colors together. So I'm hoping that you can see the effects I'm getting here on the screen. I am unsure as to whether or not you can see that. I hope you can. I'm going to go in with some more of this magenta light. I'm not even bothering to rinse my paintbrush. I'm just, now I am. Now that I have that down there. I'm drying it off pretty good too. I'm just bringing that up. And just bringing it up until it just fades off into the sky. Now, of course, we got a pretty decent line there. So that's where I'm coming back in with that neon pink. And then I'm hoping to marry those colors together. So I'll start below and then just work my way in. And that color above it was still semi-wet, so it just blends in a lot easier that way. And let's see, what is that? Magenta light. Okay, this is a semi-transparent. That magenta light was opaque. So since this is semi-transparent, that means that you can still see some of the color underneath. So if you have any brush strokes underneath that you want to cover, if you have a semi-transparent paint, it's not going to do that. You got to pull out an opaque paint if you want to cover any of the brush marks from underneath. Okay, now I'm going to come right back down here. And just clean this up a little bit. Make sure that I've got all the parts of my canvas covered. Since this is opaque, come in with just a little bit more of that magenta light and see if I can blend out my paintbrush marks there a little bit. I could mess with this forever, but I'm not going to because you get the idea. You can just keep doing that. You're going to get bored if you watch me do it, because I could just mess with this for a long time. I'm going to turn the camera off. This has to dry. So I'm going to take a hairdryer to it so that I can come back right away. Okay, we are back. Everything is dry and ready to go. And I'm going to be using a small brush, and we're going to be painting now on top of our dried napkin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be fasting through all of this. I'm going to do this as a time lapse because you will get bored watching me do this. So I'm going to explain to you what it is that I'm going to be doing. I'll demonstrate a little bit of it right now. We're just going to enhance the pattern that is already here. Okay, that is all we're going to do. So I'm just going to take a scarlet red here, dip my paintbrush into it here, and then I'm just going to start going over the images that are already there. I'm just bringing that color out, and I'm just tapping this color in just in the areas wherever I see red. I am putting red. I am just putting it right over top. It does not have to be something that you have to spend a lot of time doing. As you can see, I am being very quick about it. If you want it to really pop, use a thicker amount of paint, especially if you want some texture. I love texture in my paintings, so I am going to be dipping into this tube a lot and really layering some of this texture on. I'm using like a dabbing motion. I am not sitting here intricately painting. I am just putting this color over top of the color that is already there. Okay, so I'm doing that. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do it all the way through because I kind of want to show you a couple more before I enter into this time-lapse part. Let's see, what other colors do we want? There's some yellow in here, so I'm going to go in with a deep yellow and just put it on my brush, and then I am just going to dab that color in. Again, adding that color in, and I am just being really pretty quick about it. I think that was a white poppy, but it's yellow now. Okay, and there's a lot of yellow back in here. This is where a lot of that texture will come in if you really load up the brush and you just dab it on. And if you don't like that color, if that color is not doing it for you, if it looks too dull, if it looks too dark, as I think this does, then you go right back in to your box of colors and you find another yellow, because there's going to be another yellow in there. I'm going to use this Indian yellow, and let's see if that really does a big difference, makes those colors pop. Yes, it does. So again, I am just dabbing this on, like just kind of throwing it on there, but you see that when I do this, it looks really like I'm painting a flower field myself. And this painting becomes my own painting. You're not relying on the napkin to do the work for you. You are incorporating the napkin into your work, so the work becomes yours. Does that make sense? You want to be able to say that you did this all on your own with just the assistance. You know, you want the assistance of the paint, you want the assistance of the canvas, you want the assistance of the napkin. You don't want to have to rely on any one thing to do the work for you. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for this particular painting, this is kind of what I would like to stress. Okay, so again, I'm messing around a little bit too much here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a time lapse. And so you can just see me build this up, and then I will come back when I'm all done. Okay, so I have that finished. I'm going to bring it up so you can see. You see how pretty that is? And when you put a gloss varnish over top of this, it's going to make these colors pop even more. But it just looks like a really, it almost reminds me of like an impressionistic painting here. How pretty that is. And you could do this with just a whole, you could just do a big giant flower field if you want to. But I think that, I think that that looks really, really pretty. In my other one that I showed you at the very beginning, I added some clouds, but I really like the sky the way it is, and I'm not going to add anything else to it. If you wanted to, you could put in a little bit of white and just blend in some white for clouds. You could add birds, as I did with the other one, way off in the distance if you wanted to, but I like this just like it is. I think that it looks really, really great, and it took me less than an hour to paint. So yeah, so I really hope that you like this tutorial. I want to go over with you really quickly again about the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like regarding the materials that I used. Since Arteza did give me these things to try out, my opinion is my own, so here is the skinny on all of that. The canvases are awesome. I love the canvases. They're smooth. They don't have any bumps in them. They look really well primed. They look like they hold up really well. There's the wood on the back is thick. They're nicely stretched. I have zero complaints about the canvases. I think they're amazing, and for the price, they're really good. Regarding the paints, the pros on the Arteza Acrylic color paints, the price point is fantastic. I mean, read a wide range of reviews of this company on Amazon, of this product on Amazon. If you have any questions, I think, as of this taping, there's been over 100 questions answered on Amazon about these paints, which is good, so you have a better understanding about what it is that you're getting before you decide to make your purchase. The range of colors is fantastic. The tubes of paint are a bit small for artists who work on large canvases, but they're long lasting for those who work on a smaller scale like this. I've been using these paints before I've done this tutorial because I wanted to really pay attention to how they worked, how they interacted with one another before I did my review, and I can't tell you how many small canvases I've gone through using these. So they last a long time if you work on a smaller scale. The only cons that I really have regarding these is, one, they dry fast. They dry very quickly. So if you work on a larger scale, be aware of this. You will want to use a blending medium solution like Liquitex Slow-dri blending medium is really good for acrylics that dry on the faster side. It slows down the drying time, and it gives you a little bit more time to really blend out colors exactly the way you want them. If you work smaller scale and you work very detailed, like this was a pretty fast painting, but if you work really detailed on smaller ones, you might want to use a blending solution to that too. And I will put a link to what I'm talking about here, the Liquitex, down in the description bar below. And the only other con, as I already mentioned earlier, the colors in the tubes don't always match the color on the label. A lot of them do, but a lot of them I find don't. So if you're looking for particular color, you'll have to unscrew the caps to see if the color you want is included in the set, because sometimes they don't match what the color is on the label. So that's about it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you happen to try out this tutorial, leave me a comment below and let me know how it went for you. I would love to see images. If you have a YouTube channel, link to your YouTube channel so I can see. Send me your images. You can always reach me at ellen@ellenbrennemanstudio.com. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.